Hey, I'm Weston. I love talking about the Astros, and I'm here to talk about kind of a bummer of a game. Regular season game 8, Astros fall to the Oakland Athletics 6-2, and we got out hit 8-7. Now, this game was just a bummer, and beyond that, it was sort of uninteresting. It was a boring, slow-paced game, and I love baseball, but I still acknowledge this was kind of a meh game for a very long time. And then when it got to be not meh, it was bad. So let's get it started. First inning, Lance McCullers gets the start. First, the A's go 1-2-3. The highlight of the inning was Jed Lowry striking out on a 1-1 count when it became a 1-2 count. You see, the trick here is, in baseball, the sport we're playing, you need 3 strikes to strike out, which the umpire seemingly forgot there for a minute, which I thought at the moment, that's kind of a funny little goof. And now, it was horrifying because the umpire was bad tonight. And beyond that, it's not just bad when, an umpire is bad. That's a bummer, and you want him to be good, but what have you. It's worse when he's inconsistent, because balls that were a ball on the plate appearance before are now strikes, or vice versa, and it's just very confusing. There was one plate appearance where Jordan got rung up on a pitch that was in the exact spot as a Correa ball the next time up. And you might say, well, Weston, that's because Jordan Alvarez is a left-handed batter and Correa is a right-handed batter. So it looked like it was riding in on Correa, but going out for Jordan. And it was a pretty close pitch. I don't care. It was the same exact spot. It was the same exact pitch. Make them both the same thing. I don't care if you're wrong. Just be consistently wrong. That's all that I ask. Anyway, on to the bottom of the first. How far? Oh, God, I'm talking a lot about that. Anyway, bottom half of the first, the Astros also go 1-2-3. On to the second. Olsen hits a bouncer back to Altuve, and it took a big bounce, and it just went under Altuve's glove just a touch. So we have the first base runner allowed. Chapman then flies out to Kyle Tucker. Piscotty strikes out. A big first swing by, I can't remember his first name, Brown. Then a nasty 86-mile-an-hour curveball by Lance, or maybe that's his new slider thing. And then another nasty curve to finish off the plate appearance. Sits him down, strikeout. Lance looked great after the first 2 innings. In the bottom half of the second, Jordan struck out. That would be a theme for the game. Yuli doubled to right, which the Astros have been going opposite field a lot this season. It's been very surprising to me. Because that was a big concern of mine last year, because I felt like all we were hitting were singles to our own pull side, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you're getting hits to your pull side, that's fine. But eventually they can be able to shift for that. And the Astros this season have been going both ways pretty well. Correa then would ground out, and Tucker would ground out as well to end the second inning. In the third, Elvis Andrus and Garcia, I forget his first name, both ground out to start it. Cano walks, and then Laureano strikes out to end the top half. In the bottom half of the third, Straw flies out, Maldonado singles, Altuve chops one to Matt Olson, and Altuve, because he is a speedy boy, doesn't get an attempted throw by Matt Chapman, which was, pretty cool, because he was just absolutely hauling up the line. Brantley strikes out, and it might have been a little bit low. I thought it was pretty close, but it was still a bit low. And again, I write these notes in real time, so at the time I wasn't frustrated with the strike zone yet. Later on, if I would have wrote that note in the 8th inning, I would have wrote that was a bad ball to strike out on because it wasn't a strike. And then Bregman grounds out to end the third. On to the fourth. Lowry homers. Jed Lowry. He's not, eating things up. He's not tearing the league apart in Oakland. But I'm curious to how Mets fans feel about Jed Lowry starting the season pretty well for the Oakland Athletics. So that happens. That makes it 1-0. Olsen grounds out to Carlos Correa with this great glove play by Correa to get it back to first. That was a fantastic play by Carlos Correa. Chapman draws a walk, and then Correa gets a ground ball, and he tries to throw it really hard so that he can try to get a double play to Altuve, and instead it just bounces past Altuve, and then both runners advance. But it would eventually be no harm, no foul, right? Because, Brown would draw a walk, so the bases are loaded. He hits a dart to Yuli, the next batter. Yuli gets it, and then he throws home to get a force out. That was nice. And then he strikes out Garcia to end the inning. He was pumped up after that. And was it a good inning by Lance McCullers Jr.? No, it was a bad inning. Was it as bad as it could have been? Definitely not, because just because the bases were loaded doesn't mean anyone scored. So, we got out of it pretty well, only 1 run allowed. In the bottom half of the fourth, Jordan struck out. That would be a theme. Yuli drew a walk. That's becoming a theme, which is kind of crazy to me. Correa singles, which moves Yuli Gurriel over to third. And then Tucker grounds out, but it was into the shift, and it was a slower one. So, what's it called? Correa gets over to second, and Yuli scores to make it 1-1. And then Straw hits a comebacker to the pitcher to end the 4th inning. In the 5th, great running catch by Miles Straw for the first out. Laureano then got a hit, I believe, or no, he hit Laureano, excuse me, I misread the note there. Struck out of Jed Lowry, and then Maldonado throws out Laureano trying to steal to end the 5th. That would be the end of Lance McCullers Jr.'s night. I thought he did a very good job. You know, very similar to his first start, where it's not this insane gem. It was a stressful start, and there were a fair bit of foot traffic in some innings, and in other innings it was barren. But he only allowed 1 run, and that's really all you can hope for. Bottom half of the 5th, Maldonado flew out. Altuve singled to middle, maybe right middle. It was not quite a pull side, but so it was going technically opposite field, which again, the Astros are doing that very well. Brantley then would fly out, and Bregman would fly out to end the 5th. In the 6th, Brian Abreu comes in for Lance McCullers Jr., and the A's go 1-2-3. Brian Abreu, man, friggin' wizard. In the bottom of the 6th, Yordan Alvarez strikes out. That would be a theme for the game. Yuli grounds out. Correa singles, and then Tucker lines out to end that. In the 7th, pop-up to Maldonado, and then a crazy, insane, absurd play by Yuli Gurriel on the backhand, diving for it. That was a gorgeous play. Gets up, tosses it over to Brian Abreu. Fantastic play by Yuli Gurriel. Truly just... And they say first basemen aren't that athletic. And then a deep fly out to Kyle Tucker ends the 7th. And we're doing very good at this point. Like, we're tied. There's hope. Bottom half of the 7th, Straw checks his swing, but happens to just knock it up the opposite field for a hit, which I thought was kind of hilarious. He thought about going for 2 and then was like, you know, I shouldn't have even gotten to first base on that, so I'm not going to push it with a double. Maldonado would ground out. Straw would move over to second. Maldonado was trying to get him to go to from first to third, which I thought was kind of funny. And I mean, he probably could have, but you know. Altuve then almost beats out an infield single, but just can't quite get there. And Brantley would ground out to end the 7th. In the 8th, all right, this is where it gets off the rails, right? And this is where it goes crazy. All right, here we go. Cano leads off with a single. Then, this is important, right? This is the important part of it. I'm starting to sit up to show my anger. He then strikes out Laureano. And then he gets pulled. I'm sorry, what? Like, if you invert that, if Laureano strikes out, or in this case, if Canna strikes out and then Laureano singles, I could kind of get that in a way. Like, I still wouldn't agree with it, but I'd get it a bit more. But no, it's the other way around. It's a single to lead off, and then he comes back and strikes out the next batter. And then at that point, Dusty Baker says, all right, Brian, you're out. We're bringing in Blake Taylor. And I can't stress this enough. If your pitcher is doing well, I don't care about platooning. I don't care. And also, Blake Taylor went last night. And what was his numbers last night? I want to just really quickly get that. Blake Taylor last night. Yeah, 2/3 of an inning. Like, last night it worked out. But that isn't going to work twice in a row. I don't get why Blake Taylor was brought into this game. I really don't. Like, I'm going to get to that in a bit. I'm going to talk about Blake Taylor and that decision in a bit. So he brings in Blake Taylor, then Jed Lowry singles, and then Matt Olson just drills one. It was a no-doubter. He bat flipped, and he could bat flip hard at that point. 4-1 Oakland. Fly out, walk, strikeout into the 8th. Bottom half of the 8th, the Astros half. Bregman flies out. Yordan strikes out. That would be a theme. Yuli walks. That's becoming a theme. And Correa strikes out, which is a bummer. In the 9th, Smith comes in, which, you know, that's okay. Elvis Andrus leads off with a single. There's a bunt out that moves him over to second. And then Canna homers to make it 6-1. He strikes out Laureano, and Jed Lowry would fly out. And in the bottom half of the 9th, Kyle Tucker draws a walk. Miles Straw gets a single. Maldonado flies out. Altuve gets a sac fly to score Tucker to make it 6-2. And Brantley would line out to end the game. 6-2. Pitching lines, right? Let's go to that. Lance McCullers Jr. tonight, 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks. That is eerily similar. Hang on, I want to get his and compare his first game of the season. Almost identical. The only difference is he had 1 more strikeout. He had the same innings pitched, same hits, same walks, same runs. Only difference was 1 extra strikeout, 7-6. That's crazy. Again, I thought he played really well. I thought he was good. Brian Abreu, 2 1/3, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. And the run is only charged to him because someone else came in and gave up a home run. And that brings us to that someone else. Blake Taylor, 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, a strikeout, a walk, and a home run. And then Joe Smith comes in, 1 inning of work, 2 runs, 2 hits, 1 strikeout, no walks, home run. Now, before I get on to the final thoughts, since we're still on pitching, this is some cool news. Joe Musgrove, former Astro, part of the 2017 World Series run, threw the first no-hitter in Padres franchise history tonight. So that is super cool for him. I caught the last 4 innings of it while I was also watching the Astros game. It was super cool. He looked extremely pumped up. I was super excited for him. It looked kind of dicey there because it seemed like they might not let him stay in for the 8th and 9th inning, but he got pretty efficient with his pitches. He got him out. Fantastic game by Joe Musgrove. And the only person that reached was, I believe, a hit by pitch. So no walks, no hits. Fantastic night by him. And caps off to him for getting the first no-hitter in Padres history. Now back onto the actual Astros, which is the team I'm talking about and the team that I'm depressed about. Dusty Baker, right? This is the first final thought. His decision to take out Brian Abreu was awful. And I don't get it. I'm very pro advanced analytics. I talk about advanced analytics so much on this channel. I talk about OPS plus, ERA plus. I talk about expected ERA. I talk about FIP a lot. I talk about the percentiles on Baseball Savant. I don't go with the archaic way. And platooning is somewhere in the middle of archaic and modern day. But I feel like it's archaic to simply remove a pitcher who's rolling, who's doing well, because he and the batter can both write with the same hand. And both times Dusty Baker has done this in the past 2 nights, it ended up not mattering, because last night he brought in Blake Taylor to face a lefty, and then they just pinch hit. And then tonight he brought in a lefty to face Jed Lowry, but Jed Lowry is a switch hitter. Or not Jed Lowry. Was it Jed Lowry? Yes, it was. But he's a switch hitter. He can just go, oh, you're going to do that with your left hand. I'll do it like this. Why? I don't get it. I don't care about platooning anymore. Right? And this isn't the first. This isn't the last. I'm sure it isn't the last time that Dusty Baker is just taking a pitcher out who's been doing really well and brought in someone because, I wanted the matchup. I don't care about the matchup unless the matchup is he has held him relatively hitless or relatively ineffective. I don't care about the matchup. Here's the thing, and I'm for platooning if it's a hitter because, that could kind of affect it. But even then, I only really care about it if it's to start a game. If you're talking about bringing pitchers in or pinch hitting, I don't care about platooning. If you're talking about who's starting the game, if it's a lefty on the mound, yeah, put some lefties in. That's cool. I'm good with that. Righty on the mound, pepper it with righties. I'm in favor of that when it's a starting pitcher. But once you get into a game, it just feels irrelevant. I don't get it. Now, the platooning was bad, right? And I actually don't even want to say that is what cost us the game. Because I don't feel like Dusty Baker's decision to take out Brian Abreu was what cost us the game. Did it affect it? Yeah, it did. Because it quickly went from a tie game at 1-1 to 4-1. Like that. However, on the ticket of what cost us the game, it was our offense. And there's no ands, ifs, or buts, right? There's nothing else. The offense is what cost us the game. This is the second final thought. It did no favors for the team, right? It was bad. You have the offense that went 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. We left 9 runners on, and the combination of Bregman, that power couple, Bregman, Brantley, and Alvarez went 0 for 13 with 5 strikeouts. 4 of them belong to Yordan Alvarez. That isn't going to help you when that huge chunk of your core, right? the second, the third, and the fourth hitters in your lineup when they go 0 for 13. That's not going to help you, and especially with that awful RISP and left on base numbers. Those are not going to win you any games. Now, the main reason we stayed in the game for as long as we did, through the 5 innings, and it was still a tie, Lance McCullers. He had a very strange start. Again, back-to-back, weird, kind of confusing starts. Because on paper, 5 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts, 1 run. Looks fantastic. Those are great numbers. 88 pitches in 5 innings, including a total lack of control from the 4th onward. That's not great. And I will say, I thought that he looked very, very good and more than in control through the first 3 innings, and then in the 4th and 5th just kind of fell off more or less, which was a bit of a bummer. His control really seemed lacking at that point, but again, there was only the 1 run that damaged us in those innings, so I wasn't too upset. I thought it was another pretty good start for Lance. I'd like to see him get better control going into innings, because I'd much rather see Lance do this for longer. I'd much rather games of 2 runs, but he goes into the 7th than 1 through 5, if that makes any sense, because I would like to not tax the bullpen so much, especially when we have to lean on him like we did tonight. Now, on the bullpen note, Brian Abreu, he has been having a fantastic year. I talked about him going into last year because I loved him in 2019, even though it was only 8 1/3 innings, or 8 2/3. Brian Abreu, he seems to be doing well this season. He had a rough season last year. I believe he got demoted after 4 games to the alternate training site. But this season, he's been fantastic. I believe he has like 7 or 8 innings pitched. This was like his 3rd or 4th game, 2 1/3. The only run he gave up was because he got pulled, and then Blake Taylor gave up the home run. I thought he did really well, and I'm very excited to see Brian Abreu for this full season. I'm really looking forward to that. And on the ticket of getting pulled to let someone come in and give up home runs, Blake Taylor and Joe Smith. I can say the same thing about both of these guys. They've really let me down. I had high expectations for both of these pitchers coming into the season, and they've just been bad. They've been flat. I haven't been impressed with anything. And it's not just unimpressive numbers. I haven't been particularly impressed with the control or the velocity or the break or anything from the two of them. They've seemed sort of meh, like fine relief pitchers if you need relief pitchers. But these are two guys that going into the season, Joe Smith, when we last saw him in 2019, was elite. He was one of the best pitchers in our in our bullpen, and Blake Taylor last year was one of the main reasons our bullpen was anything other than just a complete dumpster fire. So I had high expectations for these guys coming into the season, and they have not met them whatsoever, and it's been very shocking to me. So that's it. That's all I have for this game. We play tomorrow at 4:05 Eastern. Jose Urquidy gets the start. And again, I want to thank you guys, because for the 7th straight recap video for the Astros, it hit 100. It did it again. We're also, I believe now, like 5 subscribers away from 200, which is crazy. We're nearing in on that 10,000 mark. Again, those were numbers that I wanted to hit by the All-Star break, was 200 subs and 10,000 views. I wanted those by the All-Star break. And then it started doing really well. And I'm like, wow, we might hit those by the end of May. And now it's, wow, we might hit these in a week. It's insane. And I love the response. And it's just super flattering. And I can't thank you guys enough. So that is all I have to say. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. And as always, go Astros.